welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Chris.
Dan.
Sean.
Different order, it's throwing me. It's usually Dan second. We've got you sat in the wrong places.
Because we're all sat in different places, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
exactly
sat in the same because I've got all the technology around me, and God, there's a lot. Running on two computers tonight because we've got a Skype call in later on from Virtual Statman again.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Our regular guest, I think we could start calling him now.
I think we can, seeing as we've had two guests on the show and he's been four of them. And of course, Lee's still on holiday or possibly detained at the US's pleasure. Depends on what he's been tweeting.
So people will be getting used to having Sean on the show now.
Yes,
Is this 3 in a row?
I think this is the third one,
Yes,
yes.
yes, the third one, and possibly next week as well, because we don't know when he's back.
It depends whether they keep him or if they just kick him out.
I did actually
I'm
ask
surprised
him
they
today.
haven't got bored of him by now. And
Did actually ask Lee today, how long are you in America for? No response.
he doesn't know. He didn't know when he was going, though, did he?
No.
He was a bit confused.
No, he wasn't sure when he was going to go, and now he's not sure when he's coming back.
Thing is, flights have to be booked well in advance.
That
I
doesn't
don't
mean
think
that Lee
that's
was
his-
responsible for
yeah.
booking them.
Or knowing when he's going. Oh, come on.
Well, don't forget, when he told us he'd booked this holiday, a month later he told us that AJ was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Yes, good point.
So he's already had to amend the booking once.
Because he forgot about one of the guests.
Yes.
Or didn't know about them at the
I
time.
don't think he actually knew. Does he know yet?
Anyway, that's too much talking about Lee.
Yeah, we're
He's not
digressing.
even here.
Yeah, so McLaren, Japanese Grand Prix.
Yes.
Everyone recovered from their early start yesterday yet?
Yeah, I tried to do the whole staying awake all day thing because I find it really hard to nap when it's daylight. Don't know why. It doesn't matter how dark the room is. If I know it's daylight, I can't sleep.
If only there was a local company that sold really thick, heavy blinds that you could put in your window.
Well, they can, but even if you
But
do,
it's not the darkness, it's
No.
the knowledge.
Yeah, it's the knowledge. Yeah, it's the knowledge. Hang on, it's 4 p.m. Stuff going on outside.
So you need a cassette of someone saying, It's
night
dark.
time.
it's
Possibly.
dark.
Possibly, yeah.
Don't say that too many times, you'll put all the listeners to sleep.
So I did just as it got dark last night. I did actually go for an hour's nap, and that saw me through until I had to go to bed again. So that's how I recovered.
No, I powered through right till 9 a.m.
Yeah, I napped pretty much as soon as the race was over. It was like, right, done.
Yeah,
Nap time.
Yeah.
yeah.
I made it through till about 11 p.m. and then got a phone call from work at 4 a.m.
Oh damn.
Oh.
So if I'm not quite with it tonight...
That's
Then-
why.
Then you
Yeah.
can't remember the rest of the sentence.
Yeah.
What's your name again?
So what did we think to the race as a whole?
Not a classic.
No.
No, it wasn't a classic
No.
Japanese Grand Prix. We've had amazing Japanese Grand Prix before, especially at Suzuka.
It was better than last year's.
Yeah, bear in mind there were a few incidents here and there. If you removed those incidents which brought out safety cars or virtual safety cars, wasn't an awful lot going on, really. After the opening laps and the few laps towards the end, the middle part was all pit stops. Probably not. There wasn't an awful lot happening, was there?
No.
Really? There were battles happening. There were cars getting close to each other, and there was overtaking on track. Overtaking, not all done in the pit stops, and most of them were under DRS. But I mean, it's overtaking opportunities are possible at Suzuka. As Sebastian Vettel found out in the early stages, but we'll get to Ferrari a bit later on. Should we do the classic 3 legs, 4 wheels thing of working from the back?
That sounds
yes,
like
I'm in the
a
middle of answering,
sensible way to do it.
Yeah, as I'm in the middle of answering somebody's message on something that we will get to later on in the show.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I'm being cryptic, just so that James knows I am reading his email. We'll start
Cryptic Paul.
Start at the back, which I guess would be Sauber.
They had the least successful race out of all of the teams. When you consider Marcus Ericsson put it in the barriers, was he responsible for a virtual safety car? I think he was,
Yes,
wasn't
I think it was.
Yeah, we did a joke on the live blog or on Twitter saying that if Sauber do bin him, he could get a job as a virtual safety car driver, but he might be too slow for that.
he? Exactly. Yeah, it might be too slow to drive the virtual safety car.
Isn't saying that Sauber had the least successful race of all the teams pretty much a given.
Usually.
Yeah.
Usually, and the only driver who got lapped that finished the race, they got lapped twice, sorry, was Pascal Wehrlein. He's the only driver who finished 2 laps down, and he also finished last of all the runners, which I believe there were 15 runners at the end.
That's
so
right,
we
yeah.
had a fair few retirements. So, yeah, Marcus Ericsson, his seat, not as safe as we thought it was a few races ago, when obviously we just, clearly he's got a seat, his friends own the team, but apparently not quite as secure as we thought. Not doing himself any favours by putting the car in the barriers, and...
Is anyone entirely sure how he managed to do it? Because 1 minute everyone's running, the next minute we're seeing a Sauber embedded in the barrier, and then there's a virtual safety car, and then I was like, all right, Ericsson's binned it again.
Didn't he get it out of shape coming out of one corner and then got it completely wrong coming
Yes.
into the
Just
second?
lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And instead of trying to correct the situation, he did the panic driver thing of having his foot on the brake and trying to steer out of it at the same time, which is never going to work. Locked wheels will not turn, Marcus.
Physics.
Yes, physics and science.
And then Verline with his 2 laps behind. It was just another. They are there to make up the numbers, and
Just to survive till next year
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Verline, I
this
think,
time.
did
Go on.
have an incident with a slow puncture quite early on, though, so I think he did have to make
He came
one
in
extra
the first
stop.
couple of laps, didn't he?
He did 2
Yeah.
stops under the safety car.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure
he
there was
went
something about he had a
onto
slow
the-
puncture.
Went from the softs onto the super softs and back onto the softs,
yeah,
so that he didn't have to change tyres.
and then came in for
Again.
a stop later on because the softs didn't last the entire race, so he ended up 3 stopping.
Yeah.
But it's another Ruth Boscombe. It's worth a go because they're not going to get anything by doing the normal strategies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think really now Sauber's strategy is shit or Buscombe.
Yeah.
Very good. I mean, I'd
I
like
only just thought of that one as well.
I'd just like to point out it's still Manisha Kaltenborn's Sauber that's rolling around the circuit at the moment. Fred Vasseur, even though he's there now as the team principal, hasn't had the input and probably won't have the input until early next year. So what we're seeing at the moment is a Sauber ridiculously behind, off the pace.
Underpowered, underfunded, underdesigned, under-upgraded.
Yeah.
But of course they know some secrets now. Because they've hired Marcin What's-his-face from...
No, that's
No, that's
Renault.
Renault.
That's Renault.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's been a long day.
So, how are these 4 a.m. starts treating you?
I knew Fred Vasseur was involved somehow.
Yeah.
So you thought because Fred Vasseur's involved, it must be Renault, and it's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on quickly, something that Sauber didn't do. Toro Rosso, I would say, would be next.
Yeah, Pierre Gasly, second race.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, so here's me saying I've recovered from my 4 a.m. start yesterday. I'm lying. Yeah, second race for Pierre Gasly. Didn't get to do an awful lot, although there's a lot of conjecture surrounding Toro Rosso at the moment as to was that a test run for Gasly for the last Super Formula race in a couple of weeks, or was it, is he going to be in Austin? Nobody really knows. We'll get to that in a bit. But Carlos Sainz admitted straight away the first retirement when he went out, brought out the actual safety car at the end of the first lap. Tried too hard. Tried to make too many positions at the beginning to try and get a really good finish in his last race at Toro Rosso. Got it a little bit wrong, spun his wheels up on the grass and ended up going into the barriers and couldn't rescue it. So, unfortunate
But then tried to drive back on, not realising that he'd broken his suspension.
Yeah. Yes, sad end to Sainz's Toro Rosso tenure. Although it was only really during just after qualifying, wasn't it? A couple of hours after qualifying, it was announced that...
I was going to say,
Sainz-
24 hours before he crashed, as far as everyone knew, Sainz was staying in the car for 24 hours before he crashed.
Yeah.
As far as everyone knew, Sainz was staying in the car for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was announced Palmer wasn't going to be at Renault anymore. This was his last race, and then it was like, well, Sainz is going to replace Palmer, so Kvyat's going to replace Sainz, and then it was like, well, who's going to replace Gasly, because he's going to be at Suzuka in a couple of weeks' time. Nobody knows. There's all these names, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. fairly okay showing from Gasly though. He got
to the finish.
got the car round. Wasn't last.
And I don't think he was actually that far behind that battle that was for the last points between Massa, Alonso and Jolie and Palmer.
No.
He was a couple of seconds behind that lot, I think, just when they crossed the line.
So yeah, it was solid enough. Renault next.
Yeah.
Jopo's last race.
And for once, luck was on his side. Well,
he was in the Renault that finished.
yes.
Yeah, poor luck for Hulkenberg, really, but just the way things worked out. It's kind of about time he took his share of the bad luck from that Renault team, to be honest with you.
Pretty much. Weird failure as well. His DRS got stuck open.
Yeah, and then when they tried to close it,
They just
it was
smacked
quite... yeah, they punched it, but it was quite clearly not attached to the end fence of the wing. So as soon as you let that car go out again, that rear wing was just going to flap about. There was no need. It was an odd failure, and I don't know if it was caused... I don't know if the DRS opening caused the wing to break away from the end fence, or if the end fence breaking away from the wing caused the DRS to not close. But one way or another, it was, as you say, a bizarre failure for Nico Hulkenberg. Didn't appear to be any contact made or anything, so... Poor luck, but as I just said, about time he took his fair share of it.
He was apparently not very happy about it either as well. He refused to do a lot of interviews in the pen afterwards and was a bit stroppy, I believe.
That's not like him.
Do you remember when Renault were the Lotus team and they had Grosjean and Maldonado in the car? They had a little bit of a coming together in Spain. And
Maldonado and a coming together,
I
really?
know.
Really?
And Grosjean as well. Roman Grosjean and are coming together. Good lord! But was it Grosjean who had his rear wing basically hanging off for the whole race?
Yes.
That sounds about right.
There was no upright on one side.
Yeah, there was minimal contact.
And it was just kind of like bouncing around.
Yeah, for the whole race they managed to do that. So,
But I think Hulkenberg said that it was a small metal clip that had caused the DRS problem.
so they clipped the carbon fibre together.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And that came off, and there was just no way of holding the flap down. And by the time they'd realised that what it was and it was going to be fixable, his brakes had burnt out.
Yeah, his brakes caught fire, didn't they?
Yeah.
Both being stationary too long.
Yeah, it looks like you've got about a minute or 2 minutes before your brakes are on fire if the team don't come out with the leaf blowers straight away.
Yeah.
Because
You thought they'd learnt that by now as well.
yeah,
Wouldn't
because
you?
we saw that last year with Massa in Abu Dhabi. When,
Was it Massa Bottas? I thought it was.
Oh, was
with
it Bottas with the seatbelts?
Seatbelt, yeah.
And by the time they got the seatbelts back in, there was flames leaping out of the brakes.
Yes.
And Kimi had a stop sometime this season. Where
Italy.
Where they had to release him.
They had to release him while he was on
kind
fire.
of unsafely
Yeah.
because he was on fire and they needed him to be moving.
And a Force India was coming into the pits at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, is it going to be an increased number of pit crew next season with people on standby with leaf blowers just in case?
Well, the pit crew are just the engineers, aren't they, who learn how to take tyres off and put them back on again. That's not your actual... Your job isn't front jackman in the team.
No.
You know, you've got...
Yeah, that's your race day role.
Yeah. You've got another job in the garage, preparing. That might be, I don't know, barge board man or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Making
Yeah.
sure the barge boards are attached to the car. But when it comes to the stops, your job is front jackman or rear left tyre off, or everybody's got their own jobs, but they're not. That's not their jobs.
Or if you're in the Williams team, person to supply Guy Martin with tea.
Yeah.
But isn't there a limit in the rules to the number of
People
pit crew?
Yeah.
20.
So
Is it
they
20?
can't.
That's what I took from that Guy Martin documentary.
Wow. Okay.
So they can't add leaf blower people without taking away something else
Yeah.
Unless there's a directive that says you've got to have an extra 4 people with
with leaf
With
blowers.
leaf
I think,
blowers.
I think that's what Dan was trying to get at before I started making my long and overdrawn point.
Could you add a fan of some description or some leaf blowing type thing to the gun?
Ooh.
And then you'd be getting
Yeah.
air in as you're there.
Now you're
anyway,
getting very Red Bull on us there.
I haven't had a Red Bull today.
Yeah, there's probably somebody sat somewhere in sort of Oxfordshire, Northamptonshire area taking notes. Going, ooh, hang on a
Yeah,
minute.
I might try and like patent that at some point.
Adrian Newey, are you listening?
And do you have your pencil?
Yes.
So yeah, Palmer on his way out. We will talk about this because
It's news, isn't it?
it's
We-
news.
It is news.
It's a mini silly season
yeah.
in October. Who do we have next? McLaren.
Not a bad showing. Not the dismal
It's-
showing we've seen at
It's
Suzuka
another double
before.
finish,
Yeah, the double finish.
which you shouldn't be saying that about any of the teams. Wow, they've managed to get both cars to the end of the race, but
McLaren at Suzuka, given their terrible tenure with Honda over the last 3 years. Well, of course, Suzuka being the site of the hilarious GP2 engine message
Yeah.
from Fernando Alonso a couple of years back now. So, yeah,
Talking of which, the safety car broke down before the GP2 sprint race yesterday. That was
F2,
quite funny.
F2.
yes,
F2, sorry.
Yes.
yeah.
I think Alonso would have got points if he hadn't have had to have the engine penalty.
Yeah, we got 35 place grid penalty. He started right at the back of the grid,
In
and
55th.
yes, yeah.
and worked his way up to 11th.
Yeah, exactly. He was right on Massa's tail for that final point. It was very, very close. That was the closest battle, apart from the one for the win. But that was the closest battle. Behind that was for the final point, and Alonso didn't quite manage to get it. So great showing from Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, did get himself a reprimand.
Apparently
for
so.
Holding up Max Verstappen.
For ignoring blue flags, yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Whilst chasing for this is the thing with back markers and blue flags though.
Yeah,
If
there
you
were
let
two
them-
tight battles, and they just happened to be on the same bit of track at once, and
Yeah, exactly.
kind of ruined it for each other.
But yeah, Alonso said in his defence that there wasn't actually a safe place for him to move over and let the faster cars through.
And watching it on TV, it looked like there wasn't a safe place for him to let them through.
Yeah, it took until the hairpin because that was the first place where he could actually run wide.
Yeah.
Because right from the start line up to the hairpin, there is one line, and if you go off that line, you're in the wall. As
Yeah.
Sainz and
Or you lose a couple
Ericsson
of
proved.
seconds.
Yeah, and he was fighting for a point, but yeah, he's ended up with a reprimand. And I think I read somewhere that he got 2 points on his license,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
which nah, I think that was harsh. The reprimand should have just done. I think the points on the license were a little bit too much. Just getting on my high horse.
Yeah, and also it brings about the debate again, doesn't it, with the blue flags. I mean, if you're fighting for, because on long races, really long races, Belgium Grand Prix, for example, I mean, you could come up to lap people who are fighting over 6th place in the closing stages. Why should that battle be diminished because the leaders are coming through? So, I mean, maybe Alonso's come up from again 20th place up to 7th, and he's fighting for 6th, and the leaders are coming through. Well, all right, they might qualify 1st and 2nd. Surely Alonso's done a better job to get up that far.
I think really you've got to take each case on its own merit.
Yeah.
I mean, Pascal Wehrlein pissing about at the back like 8 seconds a lap off the pace. Fair enough, blue flags, move out of the way.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, but those blue flags mean that he's more and more off the pace because he's having to get offline, he's having to slow down to
yeah,
let the cars past.
yeah.
Maybe not as much as other people have to slow down.
And you can be much in the same way that Alonso was. You can be quite strategic in where you move over as well, and you can gain or lose time.
Well, you can use it to give you an overtake.
Yeah, you can.
You'll
Yeah.
see the smarter drivers just follow the fast cars going through.
But in the slipstream.
Well, if they're in a battle with someone else who's got blue flags.
and try and hang on behind the fast car, get to the DRS detection zone within a second of the car in front.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if you're a lap down. If you have a car less than 1 second in front of you, you get DRS.
Yeah.
Then you and the leader can move past the driver that you're trying to get past.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's confusing the way that the stewards sometimes come out with blue flag penalties.
Yeah. I mean, you got to go past 3 stations, haven't you, before you're given a warning or some sort of penalty.
Yeah.
And apparently Alonso was past 3 stations before he pulled over.
But I think the actual statement was because he was fighting for points, then no time deduction would be fair.
Well, he didn't score any points, so
Yeah,
yes, but
because
he
he was
would have done
trying
if
to.
he'd
Oh, I see.
overtaken Massa.
if it had got past Massa, then there would have been points at stake,
yeah,
which he then potentially could have lost
exactly. Yeah.
with a 5-second penalty. I don't know. I've got to admit the stewards are, in my mind, they're a bit like Pirelli. They can't do right for doing wrong.
Yeah. Stoffel, on the other hand, on the other side of the McLaren garage, he did okay.
Nice start, and then lost it.
Yeah. Did he run wide at one point? I think
I think he went off track and lost about 10 places.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And never really recovered from that.
No. But he got the car across the finish line. Both McLarens finished. This is not something as you say, we should be celebrating.
But it's good. And if you think back a couple of years, we were saying how disappointing they were at Suzuka, and then they came 5th and 6th in
Austin.
in Austin.
Yeah. Austin is a track that seems to suit the McLaren chassis,
So might be
We
worth
will
watching
see.
for them there.
yeah.
Yeah, don't look at them. Don't look for them at the start of the season. Oh, I know. What have we got next? We have, I'll say Williams. Stroll with a DNF, first one for 7 races.
13, I think it is.
13.
Yeah.
Lots. First one for Lots, and Massa, as we've just said, with 10th place.
That Stroll incident was pretty weird.
It was. Yeah. I don't know if the puncture caused the wheel failure or if the wheel failure caused the puncture, but it was very fast deflation of the tyre. And, he's only, 18, Lance Stroll?
Yeah.
So very inexperienced at sort of how to control a car when you've got no control over it.
A car that's doing about 200 miles an hour going towards a corner.
Yeah, and to come back on the track and for Daniel Ricciardo not to hit him, that could have been an incredibly nasty accident.
I mean, he managed to sort of hang on to what little control he had over the car.
And got it off the track
And got
again.
it off the track again. And
Unfortunately, where he had his incident, there was no escape road
no.
because he was right behind the paddock. So
Out comes the virtual safety car, and was it a virtual safety
yeah,
car?
yeah, we
it
got an
was,
interesting
yes.
finish after the last virtual safety car. But I felt sorry for Lance Stroll because, as you say, weird one. It looked like it could have been suspension, or the wheel was broken. Very sudden deflation.
Tricky to judge what it was.
From the onboard camera, you just couldn't tell because the whole of the front right wheel and suspension assembly
Just kind of gave up.
just did its own thing, and then he's bouncing across grass, gravel, concrete, curbing, you name it. Massa, he really needed that point.
Yes.
And he fought tooth and nail for it
Yeah,
as well.
he is fighting. He's fighting for a drive next season.
Yeah.
And he had to show that he was worth it. Although, like we said last week, some of his statements, I'll only stay if they really want me. Like, well, make them want you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he needs to drive for his next few, for his final races. He needs to drive like he drove at the end of last season. When we thought he'd be calling it in and he really wasn't.
Yeah.
He needs to drive like that again.
Oh, like when we made one of those predictions of, Massa's just going to give up for the rest of the year. Oh my God, he's 5th.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah, that happened. He had an amazing end to the season, and what looked like an amazing end to a career. But yeah, he needs to do those sorts of performances to be considered for that seat. Otherwise, he's in real real trouble of losing that seat to either Di Resta or to Kubica, who are apparently the two front runners.
They are the other two on Williams' list. But yeah, performance that he needed. Where do we go next? Haas, their second ever double points finish.
Yes,
Well done,
a double
Haas.
point, 8th and 9th, was it? I think
It was, yes.
so.
Or as regular listener Michael Cohen said, "Please, dear God, not another binary."
And it wasn't.
And it wasn't.
It wasn't a 1 and a 0 or a 0 and a 1. They lined astern, finished very close to each other, which is bizarre for Haas. Usually it's one driver has a great race, one has a terrible one, and it appears to happen at random.
They were less than a second apart.
Yeah.
Grosjean wanted to get past, didn't he? He wanted the swap, but
I think
wasn't-
there
he
might have been
wasn't
keeping
given
Magnussen
it.
in front 'cause it was his birthday at the weekend. He was 25.
ah,
See, 25 used to be young for a racing driver.
Yeah. He's been around years.
Yeah, exactly.
He's used to disappointment on his birthday, though, isn't he? Because that was when McLaren binned him off.
Oh, yeah, it was Happy Birthday, you're
Yeah.
fired 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He's in the second part of his career now after taking a year out.
Yeah.
Don't forget his dad's only, 43, 44, something like
I
that.
think his dad's younger than me.
Yeah.
Really?
Jan
Magnussen?
Magnussen is not very old.
So, okay, fair enough. So Jan had a kid at like 17, 18. So,
We're all
Fair-
stunned into silence here.
fair play.
Um,
Jan still drives it, doesn't he, in GT?
Yeah, he does
GT races.
one of the American series.
it was in Le Mans this year. I definitely remember that because I had to blog about it.
Ah, yes, you did.
Not a lot of complaining from Grosjean on track this time. Driver's briefing room, another matter.
Apparently so. Apparently,
I've not seen that yet, but it's up on the Formula One website.
Yeah, apparently Romain Grosjean is concerned with safety. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, no. He doesn't like the idea of drivers undoing their seatbelts on cool-down laps, especially Lewis when he celebrates.
Well, given what happened between Vettel and Stroll in Malaysia,
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
that does
Yeah.
make sense. Yeah.
Grosjean is the driver's representative as well, isn't he?
I think he is,
does
yeah.
have a proper interest.
I think he's the the driver's representative on the GPDA board.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, he brought it up with Charlie Whiting in the briefing that he doesn't like it and he doesn't think it should happen, and basically grassed Lewis up for doing it several times this season.
Which is, safety-wise, if that's Roman's job, fair enough.
Yeah.
Especially, as you say, after the crash last week.
Yeah, because
It's-
we'd never seen anything like that before, and as it turns out, things like that can happen.
No,
Yeah.
it's worth pointing that out completely. I can't berate Romain Grosjean for trying to keep everyone safe, which is
No.
a strange thing to say. So I had to check myself there.
Even people that he's right behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, no major brake traumas, no whinging about anything.
Good.
Nice. Again, what Haas really needed. Force India. They want to fight each other again.
Perez was kind of, move this man out of my way, he's too slow. Oh, let me attack him, wasn't it?
Let me
let me
attack.
attack.
Yes.
Yeah.
with
Attack
the
may
exact
have been
words.
the wrong word.
Which I think, given their relationship over the last couple of months, could be with a tyre iron.
Yeah. Let me attack Senna Prost style into the first corner. No, Force India weren't going to let that happen. The reason they weren't going to let that happen is because their 6th and 7th place finish was a good haul of points for them in order to secure that 4th place again. After joking about when they finished 5th one year, some years ago, and then they said they were going to aim for 4th, and I made a huge joke about them. Oh, can you imagine if Force India were the 4th best team? And now for 2-3 years in a row, they
Yeah.
have been. And we didn't think even at the beginning of this year, surely they're not going to hold on to that 4th place. No, kind of looks like they are. The Pink Panthers are going to finish 4th.
Now, apparently, Otto Schnafneuer has said that once 4th place is secure, they will sit down and think about relaxing team orders.
Once it's secure this year.
Yeah.
Right. We need to keep an eye on the points, and
They are
when that
quite
happens,
comfortably ahead, I think. The midfield is very tight from sort of
I believe it's...
Williams down. It's very close, except for Sauber,
Yeah, I
obviously.
think isn't it something like less than 40 points from
Yes.
Williams in 5th to McLaren in 9th. So, a good points haul in Austin could see McLaren overtake Williams.
43 points now.
43, not less than
Force
40.
India are 81 points ahead of Williams. So,
81 points ahead, 4 races to go. It's looking pretty good.
yeah. Because I don't think either of those teams is going to win a race.
No, but, it's, a couple of 5th places and all of a sudden, it's within reach again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they'll probably let them race in Abu Dhabi and they'll just take each other out on the first turn.
well, make for a nice cheap holiday for the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Something else for Ocon this weekend as well. That was his 25th race, and it was the 25th time he's been a classified finisher, which ties the record for a newcomer But I can't remember whose record it
With
is.
Max
It's Max
Chilton.
Chilton.
Is it Max Chilton?
Yeah.
I knew it was
Max
someone a bit.
Chilton.
Yeah.
But obviously Ocon has spent a lot less time on track
Yes.
because he's a lot faster than Max Chilton.
I think Max Chilton's record of 25 consecutive finishes finished. He didn't get his 26th when he took his own teammate out at the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yes, I did read that.
Yeah, I think when he took Bianchi out at the Canadian Grand Prix was when that run finished. So long as you don't take your teammate out,
So
Which
it's,
is a
at the
real
next
risk.
race,
so it's double secret probation team orders for Force India next race. Then.
yeah. Which if Ocon sees the checkered flag at Austin, then that's 26 races since his debut finish, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, to say that for the last half of last season he was in a manner, and got round and got classified,
Yeah.
which
Seems so long ago now, doesn't it?
it really
Yeah.
does.
Seems more than a year ago that we were still talking about Manor and hoping that they would be around in 2017.
But not being slow at the back of the grid. No, Sauber have taken that job now,
Yeah,
and more anonymous than Manor were.
yeah, by far.
They're just as anonymous as Sauber were.
No one's ever described the Sauber as like a rocket on the straight.
No.
No,
Wasn't that K-Mag who said that?
I think it. Yeah. Strange.
Apologies, people,
K-Mag
if you can
does
hear
come out
strange
with some
noises. I'm
strange
having
things.
slight microphone issues.
You keep collapsing.
I
Oh
do.
dear.
You're coming undone on the table. That's why.
That's why.
It's because as we were discussing before,
Right, Chris, tighten your microphone up on the table while I'm holding it up.
the tightener works the wrong way.
No, you're left-handed. Everything works the
No.
wrong way for you.
Well, yes, but no, it's because it's
It's upside down, yeah.
Yeah. So if you hear any squeaking, it's Chris doing some running repairs. In the meantime,
It's the sound of a Sauber on the straight, creaking along.
just slightly slower. In the meantime, move on to Ferrari. What does it take for them to get two cars to
Maybe they've
complete
become the
half a dozen
Haas.
laps?
One good car, one crap car.
Yeah, I mean this
They've caught Haas,
this week's Ferrari drama was a faulty spark plug.
which is fairly.
My microphone's visibly falling now. I'm just going to hold it.
That's probably for the best. A faulty spark plug and a missed national anthem whilst Vettel was looking at the spark plug being looked at.
Which is an off-track reprimand.
Yeah. Now, if you get 3 reprimands, then you get a grid place drop. But
There is a but.
2 of them, at least 2 of those must be for driving infringements, not off-track infringements.
Yes. So Vettel is one bad overtake away from a 10-place grid penalty. Because
Or ignoring a blue flag if his luck has been anything to go by.
actually that might happen. Not a great Sunday for them at all. In fact, you can put the whole weekend down to bad things happening at different times. Kimi binning it in practice.
Kimi was fairly anonymous during the race as well, wasn't he? He
But
didn't.
managed to
Yeah.
come in 5th.
Started 10th, made up 5 places.
Yeah.
You know, you can't take that away from him. He got past some slower cars. Didn't get stuck behind them. You know, the Ferrari, when it's actually on the track and you're just looking at its speed, it's really good.
Well, he had a 5-place grid drop, didn't he? So I guess technically he just worked his way back to where he should have been.
Yeah. Didn't qualify brilliantly. Because, I mean, he qualified in 5th.
True.
Lost those 5 places. And
In fact, did he not qualify 6th, but Bottas's penalty was applied
after.
after?
Yeah.
Or I can't remember.
Oh,
I lost track because there was
yeah.
quite a few.
The only person who started where they qualified was Lewis, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are into the slide rule part of the season now.
Yeah, we really are. I mean, because people are like really on their last power unit
Yes.
components, last MGUHs, last MGUKs. So they haven't got an awful lot left to use.
Well, Vettel's got that free set that he acquired in Malaysia for not setting a qualifying time, starting 20th, and it's like, oh, right, okay, let's just top everything up.
Yeah.
Although I did see a graphic, Alonso is onto a 10th of a couple of components.
Oh, good God.
Out of a limit of 4.
And that's why you had a 35 place grid penalty.
Yeah, they just replaced the lot. Which apparently, just going back to McLaren, I know we always do, the excuse of the week was it was an electrical problem, so it was easier to change everything than look for it.
Fair enough.
Well, they've had enough practice at removing and replacing everything.
Yeah. Yeah, they haven't had enough practice at fixing stuff when one small component in one component goes wrong. They'll just rip it out and put whole new ones in.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vettel, spark plug went no speed, running on 5 cylinders,
Yeah.
and bring him in and forget about it.
And was it Karun Chandhok who said that the spark plug supplier for Ferrari is just down the road in Nagoya?
Apparently so.
Which I think would be NGK
Yes.
spark plugs. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Um,
Honda didn't have the embarrassment in their backyard, but NGK obviously did.
Yeah. Of course, with these engines being V6s, if you've not got your one spark plug running, essentially you're running on 5 cylinders, so you're losing a sixth of your of your engine power. That's a lot to let go in a Formula One car. And of course, you're not charging your battery. You're not getting the full power out of the turbo. So then you're draining even more total power that you could have just from one faulty spark plug. It's amazing, really, how much power you can lose.
Yeah.
But apparently the Mercedes cars, the design of the engine means that the spark plugs take about 5 minutes to change them. The Ferraris takes a lot longer, which
it's
is
down inside somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not accessible.
Yeah,
Well-
because it was the cover off and bits coming
Yes.
out, and it was literally shove it back together and hope we got it in the right order when the formation lap starts. Has that done it for the championship?
I think that's the championship over, yeah.
I think you can't think anything else, can you, really? I mean, when Verstappen went past, you just thought, oh, wow, Max, doing one of his early overtakes. Then within half a lap, you were like, well, he's not, hang on,
Ocon's
Vettel's
got past him.
yeah, Vettel's nowhere near Max, and now Esteban Ocon is like threatening to overtake. And then it was Ocon, Ricardo, Bottas in the space of like 100 meters.
Yeah.
And it was like, we haven't even got to DRS yet.
Yeah,
What's going on?
Vettel in his interviews as well wasn't angry. He wasn't mopey. He was quite
He said
resigned.
he wants to protect Ferrari
Well, in his interview, because he didn't go into the
into the pen.
Into the
pen.
media pen.
Yeah.
Apparently he did for about 2 minutes.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Will Buxton didn't see him if he
Ah.
did.
Yeah, I think he said about 3 words to Sky Deutschland
Right.
and then left.
Right.
Because he'd already left the circuit by the time the race was half over.
To go to
Yeah.
the spark plug.
Probably.
Yeah, to go
With
to
a
Nagoya.
tyre iron. that he
Borrowed
Force
from
India.
Perez.
But yeah, unless Lewis Hamilton has some terrible luck at the next couple of races, then I think championship's over.
Yeah.
Well, there are permutations for the championship, which we'll get to in a minute, which we've got on the running order when we get to the
When we get that
news
far.
section. Yeah, but we can sort of tie that in when we talk about Mercedes. But the second best team in Suzuka were Red Bull,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
or were they the best team because they sort of finished in between the Mercedes?
Well, it's second consecutive double podium.
It is, which is very impressive. I mean, what's that? That's Ricciardo's 9th podium of the year,
Yes.
which is incredible given how far off the pace Red Bull were at the beginning of the season. They were like 30 seconds behind in Australia, 40 seconds behind in China,
Yeah.
50 seconds behind in Bahrain.
And all things being equal, with the cars as they should be, he should be looking at 5th.
At best,
Yeah.
But at this point of the season, they look
reliable.
they look like they deserve to be on the podium. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not the 50 seconds back. They are up there, and even without the spark plugs breaking and things like that,
Yeah.
they look like they are sometimes the second best team.
Sometimes they look like they can be the best team.
Yeah.
They just don't tie it all together at the same time at the moment. As everybody knows, that's how best teams get better by making sure everything works together at the same time, which is what Ferrari are increasingly lacking in at the moment.
I mean, according to Christian Horner, Max Verstappen could have won the race, but he was getting major blistering on his left front.
Yeah,
And
they thought back to the British Grand Prix
Yes.
where the Ferraris were pushing hard for a win,
And both got punctures.
both got punctures and ended up losing it all,
Yeah,
and said, yeah, you can push but not too much.
yeah. A second is better than a DNF.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or limping into the pits and maybe fighting for 10th after you stop.
Yeah,
of course,
absolutely.
another problem was that on that last lap, when he maybe could have got close enough to try and overtake, he had Massa and Alonso.
There was that battle.
Yeah, but that final virtual safety car after Lance Stroll's little escapade across the gravel, that gave us the closest to the back. Lewis Hamilton couldn't switch his car back on to temperature wise. He was running low on fuel. Couldn't get his car back up to temperature, and therefore up to speed. Max found it a lot easier. Probably just managed his temperatures a lot better, and as we say, nearly stole the win from Lewis, but just had to settle for second. And if you look at the way the rest of Max's season has gone, a first and a second, it's pretty good.
That's a good
for the
couple
last
of
two
weeks he's
races.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Danny Rick 2/3 in a row,
he's had all the bad luck this season with the car,
pretty much. Yeah,
and when it comes together, it really does work for him.
yeah.
They do have a couple of problems coming up, Red Bull. I did read some quotes from Helmut Marko today saying that they will both have to take another engine before the end of the season, and they've both run out, so they will both get penalties. And they're going to do it at different races so that they have at least one car that's going to be able to challenge.
Mexico is apparently going to be their best chance of another win, because
So I wonder if it'll be one next time and one
Austin, one Brazil.
maybe in Brazil.
yeah, possibly.
Just depends if the engines that they've got can actually, or whoever gets chosen to be the second one can hang on till Brazil.
Yes, this is true.
You know, if it needs changing, it needs changing. You know, you can either fight your way back up the grid or DNF.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Max will want that again.
No, he definitely won't. Definitely won't.
And I don't think we need to see another Red Bull DNF and screw up the race with the other driver in Austin like we did last year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because that was that was unfortunate.
Max's phantom pit stop.
Yeah.
So that only leaves us with Mercedes then.
Yeah.
Hamilton, should we just say it now? He didn't do anything wrong. Just went
Didn't
out.
do anything wrong, but he
No.
was complaining that he was getting vibrations from the power unit.
And then Niki Lauda went, no, he was getting
Yeah.
vibrations from the tyres.
But Toto said there were no vibrations.
There were no vibrations.
So, two people are telling lies.
I think it might be all three. I think no one knows the answer.
So the tyres and the power unit were vibrating and not vibrating at the same time. Schrodinger's car.
Possibly.
But my understanding of it is that what Lewis was doing was just reporting in a normal way things that are slightly different
From the norm.
From the norm, yes. So it's not, oh my God, guys, the engine's horrible and about to blow up. It was, be aware that we've seen this. Check it out after the race.
Yeah, I've got some vibrating.
But vibrations on downshifts was what he'd said.
Yeah.
So,
See, now
yeah,
that-
I don't think it's a big story.
No, probably not. I mean, if Lewis has got to take another gearbox, then that would be a 5-place penalty for him in Austin. So, yeah, I mean, could yet be dramas in the title. I mean, Bottas was a little bit all weekend. He, apart from Saturday, he was a little bit nondescript. Friday practice 1, he didn't get any running. Friday practice 2, I think he went out and did like a couple of laps in the wet, but none of them were timed. Practice 3 on Saturday, he crashed. And then he qualified second somehow, and then just sort of, you know, with his gearbox penalty, starting 7th, he worked his way forward a little bit, helped by the ailing Sebastian Vettel, and a very well timed pit stop by the Mercedes team as well, and he managed to sort of just hold on to 4th. But I mean, he never really looked like threatening the Red Bulls. I mean, he did close that gap to Danny Ricciardo, but you were never on the edge of your seat at one point going, "Ooh, Bottas, he's just taking 1.2 out of Ricciardo in that lap." It was always like, "Oh, he's 0.2, or like half a tenth." It was
It's the Finnish understatement. Don't go for the big display. Just get on with it.
Just do it.
But yeah, dominant win for Lewis. Set off in the lead. Didn't have to defend really.
No.
went out front, won it from first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heroes and Villains is a song by the Beach Boys.
It is. One of my favourites.
Bet you couldn't do a cover of it.
I have done it.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
So who do we think?
Hero. Danny Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for being Danny Ricciardo and just getting it on the podium, and also
and stealing Lewis Hamilton's phone on the
no,
podium
that was quite
and
entertaining.
Pulling some interesting faces.
yeah, pulling lots of interesting faces and posting them on Lewis Hamilton's social media,
Yeah.
which was open to millions of people around the world. That was very, very. Max knew what he was doing as well. There's a brilliant
Max
photo.
is in the background, like.
Yeah. There's a brilliant photo of Max being interviewed by Takuma Sato, and he's laughing over Takuma Sato's shoulder because he knows that Danny's playing with Lewis's phone.
Talking to Takuma Sato, interesting from Lewis Hamilton on the podium saying, I'm going to have to get me one of them, when he was talking about Sato's
Did
Indy
he
500
know what
winners
it was at that point, or was he just like, ooh, shiny?
Yeah, actually, you might be right.
I think he just saw big shiny jewellery, because he has so much stuff going on him.
I mean, he races with 2 earrings and a
And
nose stud.
stud.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if your nose stud got stuck in your helmet?
That'd be pretty bad,
That
wouldn't
would-
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't it last season we decided that he was putting on a new chain for every win?
Didn't he say he was pretty much doing that?
Did he say it in the end?
No,
I
I
don't
think
know.
we
Maybe
said that.
I was going to say, I'm sure we said that when we were doing.
I think I must
when
have
we were doing the blogs.
must have imagined that. But sort of back to kind of serious things.
Kind of serious things is we have Sean Kelly ready to join us.
Ooh, should
So-
we take a not a jump cut then?
It's going to be one of our not a jump cuts while I set up the Skype line.
Let's not jump cut.
So that wasn't a jump cut, honest.
No, it wasn't.
But we have Sean Kelly with us.
Hi, Sean.
Where is he?
Louder than last time. So you must
Hooray!
you
Must be closer.
Must be closer.
Yes, I've decided to actually come out of the bathroom to do it today. So
Ohio internet is better than Monaco internet then, or louder at any rate.
it's official. Yes, it does seem to be that way. Yeah, how unfortunate that in the most glamorous location you could possibly talk to me from, or that I could possibly be in, I guess, was the worst audio that we've had all year.
You gotta love technical difficulties. We're on an upgraded desk, but we have taken a 10-place grid drop for it.
Well, that's the way it goes. It's better than a 35-place grid drop, right?
For his 10th power unit of the season, wasn't it? Something like that?
Yeah.
I've stopped counting. I've honestly stopped counting. I just laugh now.
Yeah.
It's like, well, whatever, 35. Let's make it 55. You know, what do we care now? You know?
So what did you reckon to this weekend's race then?
Well, we almost had a good championship going there, didn't we?
It
Almost.
looked like it was going to happen at one stage.
Yeah, it looked like we were going to have a real a battle royal, as Murray Walker would once have said. And now it's kind of blown open now, and it looks like Hamilton and Mercedes have just got to, cross the T's and dot the I's, and they've got another title, which is good for them and all. But it would have been nice if Ferrari had shown up. I mean, what we're seeing right now is sort of classic Ferrari. Almost like you go to the Ferrari Clienti division to buy these sort of old bangers from yesteryear, but now they're emulating it in real life. They can't even get the car on the grid properly. It's the Ferrari that I knew from my youth.
It's happened. It's all gone very Italian, hasn't it? It's sort of very everything's going fantastic and smoothly, and then all of a sudden one thing starts to go slightly wrong, and then everything collapses all in on itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's extraordinary that excuse me, that they've had a remarkable run of early retirements. The fact that both of them knocked each other out on the first lap in Singapore for the first time in the team's history. Then Raikkonen doesn't even get out of the garage in Malaysia. And then you've got Vettel going to the grid thinking, I don't think this car works. And sure enough, it did not. He was dropping more than 20 miles an hour on the straight compared to everybody else. And I think they obviously thought, well, maybe if we box this now, maybe we can save this engine or stop further damage. We might be able to use it for something else, but we're not going to get anywhere if he can't even keep people behind him on the straight before the DRS is even enabled.
Yeah.
It's curtains, really.
Absolutely. I mean, Hamilton could take the championship, can't he, in Austin if he outscores Vettel by 16 points. So it seems far-fetched, but all it needs to happen is exactly what happened in Suzuka, and he would be leaving Austin as champion.
Yeah, more or less. And of course, the way things are going for Ferrari lately, don't rule that out.
No.
Certainly, Lewis is going to a track where he's dominant. He's only failed to win in Austin once ever. I mean, he pretty much owns that track. Admittedly, the only time he didn't win was 2013, and that time Sebastian Vettel was the winner. But he couldn't wish for a better place to be going while he's on a roll right now. It's funny how it swung so decisively back towards Mercedes since the summer break. Going into that summer break, you remember Vettel was leading the championship. Hamilton had to give up that position to Bottas right at the end in Hungary. And then they went away, had a bit of a think about it, and come back, and Hamilton's been different league ever since. Bottas can't touch him. Bottas was 3/10 off him in Suzuka in qualifying, and that's the closest he's been in the summer break, since the summer break. I don't know what they've done with the car. I don't know if it's something that Lewis has done mentally to adjust his approach, but whatever it is, keep doing it, son, because it looks good on you.
Maybe he's getting all the extra power from the selfies that he takes in the lift every time he gets a new outfit.
Perhaps so, although he was probably a bit perturbed to check his stories and find Daniel Ricciardo's mug staring back at him on Sunday. I was saying to my girlfriend the other day, can you imagine being one of those people who follows Lewis Hamilton for extracurricular reasons, like because of fashion or because he's hanging out with Neymar or all this stuff? And you think, oh look, Lewis has posted an Instagram story. I wonder what it is. Click. And there's this enormous nose staring right in your face. Like, who the hell's this guy? I don't know who this is. Would have been entertaining,
Yeah, I follow him for the purposes of this podcast, purely to just usually make fun of him for taking selfies in lifts, wearing ridiculous outfits. But yeah, when I was clicking through after the race, a few hours after the race, and I saw Danny Ricciardo's face, I thought, oh, Danny's got a hold of Lewis's phone. And then since then, the story broke and just went a bit massive. An interesting.
The thing is, that could have escalated. That could have escalated quickly. You realise if had they so wished, who knows what they could have taken pictures of.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, it's social media is dangerous, isn't it? That was open to millions of people, and anyone could have, any number of people could have seen something they really didn't want to see.
Exactly, and they could have put all sorts of captions on one of his pictures that was already on there. Remember, actually, do you know what? I'm actually reminded of an incident that happened to me a few years ago. Mario Andretti came into our studio to do the Italian Grand Prix back in 2013. And there was this great thing. You wouldn't believe it. Mario Andretti, this legend. If you've ever met Mario Andretti, he has this aura. It's like the Don. It's like he's just the coolest person you've ever met. Like the Mount Rushmore of cool. Just like, wow. He is properly the living epitome of Arthur Fonzarelli. And he wanted a photograph of himself on the set. And you think, haven't you done enough television down the years that it's not a big deal? And he's like, yeah, can you here's my phone. Can you take a photograph of me on the set with the guys? Sure, certainly, Mario. No problem. Click. And it's like, okay, well, we're on air in 10 minutes. Can you look after my phone during this? Okay. So I had his phone for about an hour. And I thought to myself, all the way through, I was looking at it thinking, I wonder who I could prank call right now. Who could I call? Like, I'm sure Bernie's on there. Bernie's going to be on. Anyone's going to be on there. I could call them up and just say that something ridiculous, or text them.
I'm making a comeback.
Basically, I'm retiring from public life and I'm going to be an astronaut or something. I don't know. I've discovered Scientology. I've decided where I need to audit myself. You could have done anything. I could have updated Twitter. Anything. I could have done anything. I was Mario and ready for an hour, and I didn't. Thankfully for my career prospects, I didn't do anything about it. But it did occur to me, wow, Mario really, really trusts me, doesn't he?
Which in itself is, undeniably cool.
Yes, exactly. There was an aura coming off the phone. It's like,
I've completely lost the place, and I can't actually read what Chris has written down.
No, Paul, you just forgotten your glasses. What about this whole situation with Palmer at the moment? Well, not so much Palmer, but Palmer's obviously left Renault now, which was sort of announced after qualifying, that he was going to be leaving Renault, and then Sainz was leaving Toro Rosso to fill that seat straight away, and then Danny Kvyat was being brought back from wherever Toro Rosso keep him when he's not driving.
The cupboard of disappointment.
The cupboard of disappointment.
It's in Monaco. It's got terrible internet.
Well, they're gonna give him a third chance to lose his seat, which I think is really nice of them.
It's good for Verstappen.
Yep. Third win.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
and then it looked like Gasly was also going to take part in Austin, but now that seems less certain. It seems that Gasly is going to go back to Super Formula in Japan to try and win the title for Honda. Of course, with him being half a point behind the leader, who's in a Toyota. So basically, every free agent who is able to drive a Formula One car, their name has been attached to this Toro Rosso seat for Austin potentially. What are your thoughts? Who do you think is probably going to end up filling that seat?
Well, I mean, the person who is most available and has the most recent Formula One experience in 2017 machinery, of course, is Jolyon Palmer. So
Yeah,
I would be
full circle.
You know, I almost want to go out and put a bet on it at like 100 to 1. Like, oh wow, who saw that coming? But on the face of it, that would make sense. But of course, for corporate reasons, there's no obvious reason why Red Bull would do that, because they like to promote from within. They like to promote their own drivers. And certainly, I mean, I've heard Sebastian Buemi's name mentioned. Personally, it's a bit of a Hail Mary of Renault to put Sainz in the car this late in the season. I guess they must have really gone cold on Palmer. And I suppose ultimately his results reflect that. Yes, he did finish 6th in Singapore, which is tied for Renault's best result of the season. And from a nerdy point of view, I believe it was the first time a Palmer had been in the point since Estoril 89. Just saying. I'm just riffing on the stat thing. I think they must have felt like they've been operating too much like a one-car team all year. And then they figured that if they put Sainz in the car and he doesn't deliver, well, he has at least got 4 race weekends of experience with how Renault integrate and how they operate the team and how the car handles and where they need to go in the off-season. Knowing that if he doesn't score points, so they probably look at Palmer's result and say, well, we weren't getting any points out of this car anyway. For Sainz, it's a shame. It's a shame he had to leave Toro Rosso in slightly embarrassing circumstances this weekend. That's the 3rd time he's crashed out on the first lap in the last 10 Grand Prix, which I don't think is a stat that gets a lot of coverage. But he has found himself a little bit in the wars on the first lap, and he has no one to blame but himself in this instance. It seems just like he dropped it all by himself. So slightly embarrassing end, but he did score the most points in the history of Toro Rosso. And even if you had considered Sebastian Vettel's 2008 season when he won at Monza, of course it was a different points format back then. There was less points available. But even if you use the current points format, Sainz had still outscored him,
which is impressive.
Yeah, and Sainz had a very good season, had the best season by any Toro Rosso driver since that Vettel season in 08. And to me, he's always been the coming man. I think he was overshadowed by Max Verstappen in that first year as the hype train gathered with Verstappen. Not without merit, I should add. But it overshadowed how good of a season Carlos has had. And certainly when you compare it with what Danny Kvyat has done with that car, which wasn't a whole hell of a lot, Carlos was consistently there or thereabouts as long as the car was running. As long as Kvyat hadn't run into him, or he hadn't spun on the first lap, or something like that, he almost always got good points with the car, culminating in 4th place in Singapore, of course, which he got perilously close to being Spain's 100th podium finish in Formula One.
Wow.
Just saying.
So there have been 99 Spanish podiums so far in Formula One.
There has. And I'm going to cover the fact that 97 of them have gone to one driver. I'm going to leave it. That's a trivia question. 97 of those 99 have come from one Spanish driver. Try and work out which one it is. We'll give you the answer later in the show. The other two.
Well.
But I will say, do you know the other 2? Now, that's a much harder question. The other 2 podiums by Spanish drivers in Formula One history.
That is going to be a much harder question.
That is going to be a tough one.
Yes, we'll come back to that.
That's
if
one
you can take a
podium
note
each.
Of that. Yes, well, if you can take a note of that, we'll come back to it later in the show, because someone needs to take a note of it, because otherwise we'll finish the show without remembering who said that.
Make a note of that in your copybooks now.
Literally no one has a pen.
No. It's fine. We'll have to try and remember it. It's fine.
What am I writing on my hand?
Sean, Sean, you're a proper journalist. You must have a notepad kicking about somewhere.
I work on computers.
But yeah,
Look, this is my off day, son. I don't get out of bed for less than 10 grand normally. That's why I'm doing this in bed.
Right, bear with me. Right, Spanish podiums.
Yes.
The other
It's
two.
almost like a little teaser. If when you guys are not talking, which inevitably is a lot when I'm on the show because I just end up ranting forever. Yeah, you try and figure those out without looking, no cheating.
No,
I have made a note. We will come back to it.
I am
There is
going
a-
to try and think about this.
Talking of your rants, me and Sean were on holiday a couple of weeks ago. We stayed in the Hard Rock Hotel, and they've got a constant soundtrack of what they call rock music playing from about 1965 onwards. They played some James Taylor. You got mentioned.
Oh.
You got mentioned. I nearly messaged you.
Let's not go down that route. Just suffice to say, if anybody was listening the last time I was on the show, you'll know the in-joke. Let's carry on.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, James Taylor wasn't one of the two Spanish drivers to finish on podium.
No,
Carry
of
on.
course not. No. Not very Spanish name. James Taylor.
James Taylor.
Yeah.
Yes.
The filling the Toro Rosso seat at Austin. So they went into Suzuka with Sainz and Gasly. It looks like they're going to have a completely different lineup at Austin. Kvyat filling one of the seats. And what would you reckon? It probably is going to be Buemi or bring Jean-Eric Vergne back from wherever and.
Well, I must admit, I haven't tracked the story, and I don't know what the situation is vis-a-vis super licenses. That throws a spanner in the works.
Yeah.
I know that Nobuharu Matsushita in Formula 2 doesn't currently qualify for a super license, as I understand it. And he's a Honda guy, so you would think, well, maybe Honda would want to put their own man in ahead of the transfer of resources next season. I just don't think that that's actually possible within the FIA's remit. But yeah, it could be that we have two drivers, the entire team's lineup shift from one race to the other. Now, we were talking about that yesterday, and I think the last time that happened was between the 94 Portuguese and European Grand Prix. I'll give you 3 seconds to work out which team it was.
94, sorry, what was that? 94?
Portugal to Jerez. They were back-to-back races.
So that would be...
One team on the grid had two completely different drivers from race to race.
It's a room of blank faces.
I'm gonna say Benetton, because is that where Michael Schumacher served his ban and they had to change drivers?
It is a good shape, but it's not right. Oof. They had JJ Leto and Jos Verstappen in Estoril.
Yeah.
And then Michael Schumacher came back in Jerez. Thank you, yes, Jerez. And I think it was Leto in the car.
All right, so
by the next race, they had Johnny Herbert in the car. So they did actually change both drivers over the course of 2 races.
So it wasn't that.
No, it wasn't. There was a lot of driver gymnastics going on back then because we had Johnny Herbert race for 3 teams on 3 consecutive Grand Prix, which was a really interesting one.
For that one, I'm going to go for Ligier.
No. Again, Johnny Herbert raced for Ligier between those races, but we think I haven't checked this for certain. I haven't signed off on this, but I think the last team that it happened to was Lotus. In Estoril '94, it was Herbert, always Herbert, and Philippe Adams was in the car, in the other car at Estoril. And by Jerez, they had Alessandro Zanardi, back when he was called Alessandro Zanardi, and Eric Bernard, who was the refugee from Herbert's move to Ligier. So, yeah, so there you go. You impress your friends and amuse your enemies with that one.
You're on fire tonight.
Sorry, in Monaco, I was distracted. I was too busy hanging out on the Côte d'Azur. I'm not going to do any work for this. But, now suddenly I'm thinking, I suppose I better read what I said over the weekend. And
I did actually
make half an effort to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
I did actually tweet you at the time, Sean, but obviously you had a barrage of tweets coming in about the incident when it happened. But when Vettel and Stroll came together on the last lap, the slowdown lap rather, in Malaysia, I couldn't recall another incident where 2 cars had an accident. I could think where cars had stopped because they run out of fuel or something. Jensen in Suzuka a few years ago that happened too, and others. But an actual accident where one car was going to be completely totaled on a slowdown lap. Can you think or know of any other incident where that's ever happened before?
I'm sure it's happened. I can't. They're not coming to mind at the moment, but I'm sure something like that has happened before. It certainly happened in IndyCar racing. I remember it happening multiple times. Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi again. When they won the title at Laguna Seca, I think it was '97 when Zanardi won the title. They collided with each other on the slowdown lap. They were trying to do they were doing the formation,
the side by side thing.
On the slowdown lap, going around together, and they inadvertently ran into each other.
I remember Coulthard binning it on the way to the grid in Monza when he drove. I think it was when he drove for Williams.
Yeah, you're thinking of Monza '95 when he went off on the oil, because there was oil laid down from the support race. And of course, Coulthard was the pole sitter, was the first person to get onto it.
Yeah, and he binned it on his way to the grid. I do remember that.
Yeah, and then there was a red flag on the first lap, which totally saved him.
Yeah,
because otherwise it would have looked like Pratt of the Week. But it saved him from it, so he ended up being Pratt of the Week in Adelaide instead when he crashed into the pit wall. Another story for another time.
Yeah, so interesting stats from the stat man himself. What else we got to discuss?
How are we doing on those Spain? How are we doing on the Spain podiums?
I'm whilst you're talking to her, I'm struggling to actually think of other Spanish drivers.
I
want me to
can think
give
of
you
a
a
lot
clue?
of crap Spanish drivers. I can't think of one on the podium.
Yeah, give us a clue, Sean. Go on.
Well, one was in 2006 and one was in 1956. That's all I'm telling you.
So Pedro de la Rosa.
There we go. Yes.
And 1956. Well, it's going to take me a long time to think who that is, because that goes almost beyond. I'm pretty good up to the late 60s, but then before that, no.
Well, I mean, most of us are pretty good up until our late 60s, and that's when we start going downhill, don't we?
Yes, it is.
Pedro de la Rosa in which Grand Prix?
The Japanese Grand Prix?
No.
I can remember him being on the podium.
We'll come back to that, shall we? It's not great. It's not a great podcast when we've got total silence. We'll just move on.
No, of course. Yeah, but yes. Sorry, Paul. Where were we?
Where were we? I haven't got my glasses on, so you can have the running
What?
order.
You brought your glasses over with you.
Yeah,
what have you done with them?
Yeah, I've put them down
This is
somewhere.
He can't see them because he isn't wearing his glasses.
They're behind me.
Pantomime season.
I'm officially ill. I've got an excuse.
We were talking before, Sean, about the Sebastian Vettel getting his reprimand for missing the anthem because there was a problem with his car. Is that taking? Do you think that's taking stewardship like a bit too far? Like it's a bit silly, really, especially given the extenuating circumstances. It wasn't like he was lazy and couldn't be bothered. There was an actual reason he wasn't there, and it's almost a very
nitpicky.
Yeah, it's nitpicky and. To make sure all the drivers have to be there for the anthem. I know it's a rule, but if your car's not working, you're not going to make the race. Why would you be at the anthem? Surely you'd want to be in the race more so.
Yeah. Well, he was second on the grid.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have a far to walk.
That is actually a very good point.
Yeah. And it is in the sporting regulations. If people have a fundamental objection to it, they need to bring it up before a World Motorsports Council meeting, really. The thing is there's a lot of dignitaries and a lot of pomp and circumstance applied to that anthem since the last year or two. And everybody knows you've got to be there now. So how else do you enforce it? You could fine the team, but really, is that going to do anything? The teams might say, look, we can afford that. That's no problem. So then you end up with, both Sauber drivers up there because they're thinking we don't want a €25,000 fine because we can't afford it.
Yeah, and no one else.
Lewis Hamilton might say, "Well, no difference to me."
Yeah.
One less gold-plated butt scratcher this week.
Yeah, and the thing is he got a reprimand. It wasn't like they gave him something completely draconian. Like they didn't give him a grid penalty. They didn't take his points away. It was just simply, look, don't do it again. And there is a cumulative effect, of course, but. They're never going to say, right, we're banning you from the next race because you didn't attend the anthem. There is some common sense applied. I do appreciate it can appear to be overly officious, if that's a word. Forgive me, I was off school the day we did this. Yeah, if it was if they were doing that, then I would object. But yeah, as I said, he didn't have far to walk, and the guys at the back of the grid made it. So where was he?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I suppose
that's a fair point.
That is a fair point.
Yeah.
What do you think about the announcement for Austin, where Michael Buffer is going to be announcing the drivers? So they're opening.
Well, now this
they're opening
this
the
is
grid
one of the
early.
most interesting. Yeah, this is one of the most interesting things I've read this year. And so, speaking of an overly stage managed sporting regulation, the fact that they're exempting this procedure from the standard sporting regs for one race only, so we can do this Michael Buffer thing, is going to be fascinating. And I mean, I love Liberty's zest for the spectacular, and you've got to love it as a fan. I mean, imagine it. You just think, wow, this is amazing. This dude we know from boxing, that everybody, like this famous voice, introducing all these the protagonists and thinking, wow, this is way better than it normally is as an introduction. I think it's great. I mean, I've long thought I think all as fans, we all love the fact that every race it's the same procedure. Okay, it's hour, green light, pit lane opens, everybody comes out. 10 minutes later, pit lane closes, everyone's on the grid.
Yeah.
La-di-da-da. Normal procedure. It's kind of nice that there's something happening where one race is different. Now, the one race normally is Monaco. But now we've got another race here in the United States where, okay, something genuinely different is happening on the grid. It's kind of nice, you know. I think it's important that each race has its own personality. And when you do this, it makes the United States race look more like the United States race as opposed to the boilerplate Herman Tilke Grand Prix in Nowheresville somewhere, you know. Because so many of these races can look homogenous. The Korean Grand Prix, the Indian Grand Prix, the Chinese Grand Prix, the Bahrain Grand Prix. The Bahrain Grand Prix switched to a night race, and that totally changed it. Bahrain was just a snooze fest. And then they changed it to a night race, and suddenly you thought, okay, now it makes sense. Now it kind of looks like an event. Whereas before, it just looked like a race in a car park in the middle of the desert.
It was like a unique selling point for each event almost.
Anything that can increase the uniqueness of each event, that makes you think, if you went to, say, the Chinese Grand Prix, you know, whatever, if you went to that, then you would think, well, I kind of also want to go to the United States Grand Prix because it's so recognizably different from this event. That's why people gravitate towards things like Singapore, because you think it's such a unique event. Monaco is the same thing. Everybody wants to go to Monaco. It's such a unique event. Montreal is the same. It's like a party race around an island. It's brilliant. You know, what's selling the other races? You've got to have something in the arsenal there to make you want to go and do that. And particularly the United States is up against it because, of course, it's a back-to-backer with Mexico, and Mexico looks amazing. And I hope obviously that Mexico City's been through a rough month with the earthquake and so on. And I know that the track was unaffected, but obviously it'd be a quite different dynamic in Mexico because of that this year. But normally the USA has suffered from having Mexico right after it because people look at those two events and say, I'd rather be in Mexico City than out in the middle of the countryside in Texas somewhere.
To be fair, that baseball stadium in the middle of Mexico City where the cars come through, it might not make for great racing, but it does look.
It looks like
it
a
looks
party.
incredible.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
My favorite moment since the Mexican Grand Prix came back wasn't actually in the race itself. It was the drivers' parade in 2015. And I don't know whose idea it was, but it was brilliant. They had a mariachi band playing all the way around the track. So you're watching all these guys go around in the back of these classic cars, and you hear all this kind of stuff going on the whole time. It's just like, my God, you know, speaking as someone who lived on the Mexico border in San Diego for so many years, I'm like, oh my God, this is the most Mexican thing I've ever seen in Formula One. And it came to a crescendo as Sergio Perez came into the Foro Sol, as it's known, Foro Sol Stadium, and he gets out and he's just charging against the crowd and throwing hats, and the mariachi band gets out, and as well, it's like, oh my God, my head's going to explode. This is the most Mexican thing ever. You know, it was amazing. And you just thought, if you're a Mexican F1 fan who's gone 23 years without seeing a Grand Prix in your home country, and then suddenly it's all Mexican all at once, you just think, this is brilliant. I just want more of this. And that's what's detrimental to Austin, is that you look at Austin the week before and you think, well, it's kind of nice, but it's a bit sensible by comparison. Whereas the Mexicans just go full Mexican and just think, yeah, screw it, let's do the whole thing all at once.
Yes. So the idea of injecting a little bit of extra, more Americanism into the the United States Grand Prix, of course, why wouldn't you? It's going to work.
I'll put the request in now, just in case FOM are listening to this. We want the Stetsons back on the podium.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course we do.
We need
and
to talk to Pirelli,
sombreros. Yeah, and sombreros in Mexico.
We should have that. What are we playing at? What are we, savages these days? Why haven't we done that?
Exactly. It's fun.
You know what? I'll have a word with them. I'll speak to Rizola about it next week. Where's the sombreros, Mario lad? Actually, you know what? Now that I think of it, I spoke to someone about this before Austin last year, and they'd made some Stetsons with the Pirelli logo on it, but for some reason they didn't get used. I don't remember why. I don't know if I'm saying. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that. I might have been governed by a non-disclosure agreement. But I put it this way: I saw photographs of the Stetsons that were ready, and it was like a few weeks before the race. They said, "Well, we've got them ready. I don't know if we're going to use them, but we do have them." But I don't think ultimately they ever got used.
Is that Pirelli's choice at the end of the day? Is it whether what hats get used? Because of course they sponsor the caps on the podium.
Maybe
I don't know. There might be some sort of external things as well, but I'm sure. I mean, Pirelli have got a pretty good sense of adventure. I mean, they'd have to stay in Formula One for 5 years, and everybody keeps telling them their product's crap.
We literally said before you came on the podcast tonight, they can't do right for doing wrong.
Exactly. I think Pirelli are the most undervalued people in all of Formula One for what they bring to the sport and what they do. People said design a tyre that degrades and makes the racing interesting. Okay, we'll do it. Oh, your tyre's crap. Why can't you make a better tyre? We made the tyre you said make. Well, why can't you make them harder? Well, we can if you want. Yes, we want harder tyres. Okay, we'll make harder tyres.
That's too hard.
The tyre's too hard. Now you completely ruin it. Now there's not a pit stop, not enough track. For God's sake, what do you want us to do? Why don't we just go home, not do this at all? Oh, no, don't do that, because then we can't race. Right, well, what do you actually want?
It's a thankless job, isn't it, being Pirelli in Formula One?
They just get beat by a stick every single day. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I admire the fact that they stuck this out for so long. I spoke to Paul Hembry about this years ago. We were commentating together. We did 5 lives together at Monza years ago, and he was in the booth with me. And it was quite an interesting, slightly nerve-wracking sequence for me during FP2 as I was showing him tyre degradation numbers in real time. And I'm like, well, normally I do this for commentators. Now I'm showing the boss of Pirelli the tyre deg numbers. And it's funny because normally I do it with authority. All right, lads, this is the state of play. We're seeing the degs coming down like 0.1 per lap, blah, 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 blah. It looks like a 2-stopper, yada, yada, yada. But when Paul Hembry is in the booth, you kind of show him the data and you're almost going, what do you think, Paul? Is this right? Have I got it right? Is
this what you expected your tyre to do?
Is this what the right answer is? And it's funny, he took the note in his hand, he was reading it, and he just went, oh dear, that's not good. Just handed it back to me. That wasn't what he wanted.
Wasn't what he wanted to see.
Yeah, he didn't dispute it, but he was just like, oh dear, it's not. Yeah, supposed to be a bit more. It's supposed to be a little bit more degradation than that, you know. Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. Pirelli and Stetson. Yes, I'm all for it.
Was there a Russian hat at one point as
well?
Did I dream that?
Yeah, I'm sure they had fur hats in Sochi.
Fair enough.
Not this year, perhaps, but
No,
I think they did
last
have.
year. Maybe they've just gone back to baseball caps for health and safety after the great cool down room Hatgate incident. You know, if you throw a Stetson, there's it's going to travel further and a bit faster.
But a cap's got a plastic clip on the back. A Stetson
Listen,
would be softer.
throw someone's Stetson around in Texas, you're liable to get shot.
Yeah,
Fair point.
Yeah, isn't that a thing? Throw your Stetsons in the air and shoot them.
I thought that was just on The Simpsons.
I was never that quite integrated into American culture as to have done that, admittedly. I'm sure whatever amuses
I'm sure
them,
our listeners can tell us.
Yeah, I know. In the absence of Formula 2, we have a little bit different entertainment for you on track today.
So yeah, how are we getting on in the rest of the Three Legs Four Wheels podcast room here? We're thinking of that other Spanish podium finisher.
I have got nothing.
No.
Nothing at all.
I've got nothing either, so I'm going to have to concede defeat to Sean on this one, I think.
Oh, you're giving up?
Well, I can't think of any Spanish races that far back.
Well, there weren't many, admittedly, and it is a tough one. It is one that you have to be a real proper anorak lover to know it. I'll give you 10 more seconds. I think he died on the Mille Miglia in 1957.
I could just say a Spanish name and hope it's right. Hector Gonzalez or something like that.
Well, you know what? You're not actually that far off.
Well, there you
go. The correct answer, and this guy was born in Great Britain, by the way, originally. The correct answer is Alfonso Di Portago, and he finished second in a shared drive at the 1956 British Grand Prix.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's one of those disputed results because
it was a shared drive.
It was a shared drive with Peter Collins, and I think Peter Collins took over the drive. So it was Fondi Portago was his sort of short name. It was his drive, and Peter Collins retired from the race, took over the Ferrari of Di Portago and finished second. And that was the only podium finish for a Spanish driver between 1950 and the 2003 Malaysian Grand Prix. Now, what's interesting about Fondi Portago is he had probably, I think, the longest full name in the whole history of Formula One. And I've had to actually look it up here just to double check it, because I don't remember it off the top of my head. And it goes Alfonso Antonio Vicente Eduardo Angel Blas Francisco de Borja Cabeza de Vaja y Leighton.
Oh, right. So he shortened his name a bit then.
Imagine getting that on a football shirt.
They call him, I think they called him, I think at Ferrari they called him Dave.
It's much easier. Bit like JJ Leto calls his names something ridiculous, isn't it? That sort of finishes eventually in Leto.
Well, it's actually his name's not that long. It's Yuki Yavi Leto. Is his full name.
Yuki Leto.
JJ's a lot easier to say, especially if you
JJ. I think that's a Keke Rosberg thing. I think Keke said, "Look, no one's going to be able to pronounce that shit." Sorry, that's the kind of thing Keke would say. No one's going to be able to pronounce that. Why don't you just make it JJ? I think that's how it came into play. Anyway, whenever I met him, I called him JJ. So everybody did, even Finnish people.
All right, Chris, you were just waving a piece of paper at me. I think, Sean, it's time to sort of quiz you and the rest of us. We don't have Lee with us tonight because somehow they've let him into the US and he's still in Florida. So instead of who's a total shunt, it's who's flooded their engine.
Yes, the similar game I think you played once before, Sean, where I'm going to give you some clues and you've got to guess which driver I'm describing to you. I think you'll get this fairly quickly.
We should get this between the four of us that are taking part. Dan, put your phone down.
Right, clue number 1. I was born in 1944. So there you go, that's your first clue. It doesn't give away an awful lot.
Okay.
Let's see.
So it gives away the fact that they are 73 this year.
Is it?
He's gonna.
Is it Jackie X?
He's gonna have a go on the first one. I'm gonna tell you first, straight off. It's not Jackie X, but I'll continue with the clues.
The reason I say that is because I think Jackie X was 23 when he won the 1968 French Grand Prix, so he would have been born in 44, right?
Yeah, possibly. So
yeah.
So yes. Second clue. I was born to Jewish parents who hid during World War II.
Okay, I know the answer.
He knows it. He's got it already.
Whoa! He's got it already. Can the other three of us have a go, please? Yeah.
Third clue. My racing career started on 2 wheels.
Can I? By the way, do I get bonus points if I say this driver's full name?
No, because that's a clue later on. But
oh shit! There's a cat on the desk.
Oh,
go away!
Trying to stop the cat.
Sorry.
Pressing stop.
That means it's a bonus round. Bonus. That means it's double points in this round.
If it all goes quiet, she's
that
stood
double
on the
points
fader.
Abu Dhabi? Come on, Sean. We all knew that was a terrible idea.
I'll tell you what. When we get to the extra names bit, come over to me and I'll say this driver's other names that people don't know.
Okay, that's fine. It is a little bit later on. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the first 3 clues. You're going to come up with it.
Yeah, we've got nothing, but Sean's got something. So
we'll just keep going till we get to Sean.
Keep going until.
Okay. Fourth clue. I won my Formula 3 car in a competition.
Did cornflakes give away?
You can you can interject there, Sean. Go on.
I can add a cryptic clue of my own.
Go on.
Do that? Can I start ripping on?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, crack on.
This driver won the very first Grand Prix in which timing and scoring was set to 3 decimal places.
Well, there you
Wow.
go. I do not have that I do not have that as a clue. No. Number 5. I was promoted to F1 on the word of a driver after a good showing in an F2 race against him.
Right.
Okay.
Clue number 6. Just in case you're in any doubt, Sean. My Formula 1 debut was at Zandvoort, 1970.
On the date of the 1970 World Cup final, which Brazil won 4-1, I believe.
There you go. That's a sports statistician for you right there.
Containing the goal of the century.
Yes, Carlos Alberto. If you can name the other 3 goal scorers, I'm impressed.
I'm sure Pele was in there somewhere.
Let's see. It was... Can't remember myself now. No, Pele didn't score in that final, did he? It was Gerson, Jairzinho, Carlos Alberto, and Tostao.
Yes.
Next.
My only F1 win came at Watkins Glen.
Right.
$50,000 for that win. Yeah, buddy.
Yes, it was.
It's also the last Grand Prix victory for a driver wearing leather gloves.
There you go.
Again, that one's
Extra
probably not on your
stats.
list.
No,
This
no,
guy
no,
has some
absolutely
amazing
not.
facts about him.
But none of us helped
No
me
one knows
find
who
the
it is.
answer.
Number 8. I drove for just one team across 4 seasons.
I know I should know this, and there's probably people, I say this every week, screaming into their listening devices of choice.
Sean, it's over to you for this one. Do you want to give them the other names of the driver that he wasn't known by?
Yes. Using his other names, this driver could be introduced as Albert Goldenberg.
Correct.
Still no help on this side.
No, I have nothing.
No.
Well, you got to get 2 clues here, the final 2 clues where it's really going to give it away. But we already know Sean's got it, so... Number 9.
Well, seeing as he's been asking about as many questions as you have, then
Yeah.
yes, I think that's a fairly
Yeah.
good idea.
Number 9, I argued with Jackie Stewart about the fastest way to take the S's at Watkins Glen in 1973.
Nope.
Nothing yet?
No.
Nothing on anyone?
Come on, guys.
I haven't got it.
It's absolutely screaming the
I
name.
know,
out there.
yeah. And
Put bells on the friggin' thing.
this is the Spaffer clue coming up right here. I died at that exact spot the same day.
Can I
Obviously, this isn't him speaking in the first person.
No, it isn't. This is me being that particular person.
Can I just say I do have pneumonia at the minute. I am on quite heavy medication, so my brain isn't all there. And why can't I remember? Probably because of the. Did I mention I was on quite heavy medication for pneumonia? And
It's come up once or twice.
All right, come on. I'll go through all the clues again. Born in 1944.
Yeah.
Born to Jewish parents who hid during World War II, and that's where Sean got it. My racing career started on 2 wheels. I won my Formula 3 car in a competition. I was promoted to Formula 1 on good word of a current driver after good showing in Formula 2 race against him. My Formula 1 debut was at Zandvoort 1970. My only Formula 1 win came at Watkins Glen. I drove for just one team across 4 years. My real birth name is Albert Goldenberg. I argued with Jackie Stewart about the fastest way to take the S's at Watkins Glen in 1973. And I died at that exact spot the same day.
Which is when Jackie
And also
Stewart
something about decimal points and leather gloves.
and that's when Jackie Stewart announced his retirement with immediate effect. And oh god.
Yes, the other clues were the last Grand Prix driver to win a race with leather gloves,
And also
and the first Grand Prix driver to win a race in which the timing and scoring was set to 3 decimal places. I'm just riffing on the stat thing.
I've stumped them
This is
all.
before my
Apart
time.
from you, Sean. Of course, I
no use
haven't
here.
stumped you.
And I can't remember his name.
So anyway, back to the Spanish podium question.
Sean, do you want to tell them who it was?
Yeah, should we put them out of their miseries?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
let you
Yes,
do
please.
it as the guest.
The driver that you've forgotten, and I can't believe you've done it, is a 1971 United States Grand Prix winner and Tyrrell stalwart Albert Francois Sever Goldenberg. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, I did know it. I was
Yeah.
just drawing a complete blank. You know when your brain goes on holiday?
It hasn't come back off holiday yet, then, Paul.
Mine's still listening to James Taylor in Tenerife.
That was good. Good to get that on the second clue, though, Sean. Even that's very impressive.
Thank you. I almost looked professional. I was pretty confident when I went in with Jackie Hicks on the first one. I thought, oh, here we go. I'm gonna get him with this one because they'll be like, wow, how'd you get that one?
Just by the year that he was born in, that would have been very special.
The best trivia question I ever got asked, and I get this a lot when people find out what I do, particularly when I'm at races, because they'll always drag in their friend. Oh, my friend knows like everything about Formula One stats. You've got to meet him, and I'm always thinking, okay, here we go. Poor sod gets dragged in, you know.
It's like some sort of challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit, I imagine it's like, if you're a professional sports person, like if you like if you're a professional golfer or something. Oh yeah, my friends are so good at golf. I bet he could beat you, and then they lose by 20 shots.
Yeah.
Just 'cause I'm like, guys, I do this all the time. Like, this is my full-time career. This guy asked me. He said, the Ligier team. And that's as far as he got. And I said, Joe Schlesser. He went, how did you know what I was going to ask you? Now, can you work out what the question was going to be from the answer? Joe Schlesser. What was the question?
Something to do with chassis.
Yes.
Yes. Who is the chassis? Who were the chassis designations named after?
Correct. Because all Ligier chassis numbers started with the designation JS. And who was it? Who was JS? And I knew he was going to ask that. As soon as he said the Ligier team, I thought, well, this is obviously an umbrella statement about Ligier, which leads me to this answer automatically.
Because there's no other interesting facts about the Ligier team,
but,
other than Olivier Panis, which is a little bit too obvious.
Right, all his mates around him are just like, he didn't just know the answer; he knew what the question was before you asked it. and I left it at that. I didn't explain. You don't explain how you do the magic trick. Obviously, you just say, "Hey, look how cool I am," all that stuff. So, yeah, I've never forgotten that one. I definitely got brownie points that day.
Brilliant one. Right, well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Sean. And
you're quite welcome.
Entertaining as always. We will watch out for your stats coming up in Austin in a couple of weeks.
Oh, now hang on a second. Are we going to do another secret stat? Because we got Sean's secret stat in Singapore when it was eventually read out.
Eventually, right at the start of the race.
Yes, right at the beginning of the race.
What was it? I don't remember.
It was some no 1-2 finishes or something in Singapore for a certain amount of time.
Oh yeah, no one's ever had a 1-2 as constructors.
As constructors in Singapore.
Yeah.
So what stat are you going to try and push out to the broadcasters before the race this time? Just another coded message that only us and our listeners will know.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, there's a load of them. Let's see what we got here. Let me pick one off the tree here. See what we get. I got a few of them, you see, because I have actually done a little bit of preparation in advance. Because every now and again, I'm professional. How about this? How about this one? The Ferrari last year set the fastest lap in Austin. Yeah. Sebastian Vettel set the fastest lap. It was more than 2 seconds quicker than any non-Ferrari. So only Kimi Raikkonen got within 2 seconds. And even then, it was only 1.964 of it. It was almost 2 seconds clear of his own teammate. Let's see if we can get that into the broadcast, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a great one.
Yeah, that would be great.
Actually, and then there's an even better one. This is, okay, stand by for Nerdgasm. Are you ready for this one? This is tenuous stat of the week. I will pay people if they get it into the broadcast this weekend. That's how tenuous this one is. The race this year is held on October the 22nd, right? Now, there have been 5 previous Grand Prix held on that date in Formula One history, and a title was clinched on every single one of them.
Wow.
Ooh, that's the nerdgasm right there.
That is it.
Yeah. And if you're interested to know, Denny Hulme clinched the driver's title in 1967 in Mexico City. Alain Prost became the champion at Suzuka in 89. Michael Schumacher clinched at Aida in 1995, and Fernando Alonso won the world title in Interlagos in 2006. The only exception is the 2000 Malaysian Grand Prix, I believe it was, and that was the day Ferrari clinched the Constructors' Championship. So history says we're going to see a title clinched in Austin. It could be constructors, could be drivers, it could be both.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's Sean Kelly for you.
Thank you so much.
You heard it here first. Thanks a lot, Sean, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you soon.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Good luck finding any other guests, but if you don't get any, I guess I'm still available.
We'll give you a shout next week.
See if Lee gets stuck in Florida.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Cheers, Sean. Bye.
Right, as promised, the Formula Lee results for Suzuka. I enjoyed this one, mainly because it was me that set it and it wasn't Lee being an absolute git to everybody. I don't know what everybody else thought.
Well, yeah, we know as soon as possible that as soon as Lee can, he'll make it a wet race in a really crap car.
Yeah.
With ridiculous conditions where it's never going to rain, somewhere like Abu Dhabi or something like that.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi and a Sauber in the wet. That's not next week's challenge.
No.
There was only two of us from the podcast actually managed to find the time to get a go this last week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've not turned the PlayStation on in a fortnight now.
My attempt was today.
Yeah.
So
And I had to go at the sort of start of last week after we announced it, and then work got in the way. That's my excuse. And Lee's in Florida. So we have the top 10. Apologies for getting things wrong on the last one. I forgot how to use the sort function on the spreadsheet and
oops.
read things out wrong. But I have done it properly this week. I promise.
Yeah, there were a couple of times that were not everyone's time, just a couple that
Just
were
a couple of times I got
missed
missed out. It's
place,
just that
yeah.
they were at the bottom of the points.
Absolutely.
But this week we have Paul Large Simon getting the points genuinely.
Yep.
131,491.
A lot quicker than I could manage.
A lot quicker than most people could manage. Pete Bull was in 9th, 131,253. Freddie Brunner in 8th with 131,242. Luke Nipper down to 7th. He was up there at one point.
Oh wow.
But his best time was 131,242. Sorry, 152. Usual winner Jeff Sharp. In
Sixth place.
Because
He's already the champion. That's
he's already
why.
the champion, and Project Cars 2's just come out, and going by the tweet I got from him earlier, it's apparently very good.
Yeah, I need to get my hands on a copy of Project Cars 2.
Yeah, I've done like 4 laps and crashed, so I switched it off in disgust. But Jeff only managed a 131,088.
Only.
Only, which was 2 seconds faster, 2.8 seconds faster than me.
Oh God.
Top 5, Ollie Vestley, 130.754. 4th place, Max Williams, 130.736. 3rd was Finn Wilson, 130.624.
Well done, Finn.
2nd, Karl Jarzec, 130.470. And the winner, again, Chris Olby,
Oh, Chris Albee again.
129.953.
Good Lord.
That
Congratulations,
that
Chris.
is impressive.
That's going some.
So, we need something for Austin.
We do.
It's going to be dry, because I'm not Lee.
It's an American race.
It's an American race.
There's an American team.
There is an American team. We'll do it in a Haas. So, Austin is dry in a Haas. 2-week challenge. You have until 7 o'clock UK time on Monday the 23rd. Get your times into us. We'll tell you how at the end of the podcast.
Yep.
And good luck with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Are we all going to
Yeah.
manage to have a go this week? We better tell him what it is when he gets back.
We should. Are we going to tell Lee, or should we just wait for him to not listen to the podcast?
And then we'll be able to beat him again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
Right, on to the mailbag. And we are starting with another in the list of 3 legs, 4 wheels racers. James Holman, who we've talked about before.
Yep, one of our listeners who is a racing driver. It's a different discipline to Dave Daddario, who of course we had on the show a couple of months back now.
Yep. Dave was racing this weekend, by the way, so we'll have
wonderful.
we'll have something on his race next week. James races in it's a kind of classics series.
Yep.
He was we'll say runner-up in the closest ever finish at Monza, where he lost by 1,000th of a second
Yeah.
to his brother-in-law.
It's going to hurt.
Christmas is awkward in that house. But he is getting back on track in November, and he is looking for sponsorship with a difference. If you go to gofundme.com/3legs4wheels, James is very kindly putting our logo on the back of his car. But if you go to his GoFundMe page and donate £10, you'll get your name with it as well.
Yep. So basically, on the boot or the trunk of the car,
It's English, it's a boot.
it's a boot. Trunk
That's
for-
Canadian, is it not a boot?
Ah, very good. That was for the benefit of our American listeners, though. But the yes,
And our Canadian ones, hi Zane.
the 3 legs 4 wheels logo he wants to place in the centre of that panel, and then all the listeners' names who sponsor him will go around it on the same panel. So yeah,
So that sounds like pretty prime sponsorship real estate.
Yeah,
absolutely for what James does racing all over Europe.
yeah. This is for a race at Brands Hatch on the 4th and 5th of November. It's one of the support races to the British Truck Racing Championship. And as Dave said when he was on the race, the most expensive things are the tyres. And this is what it's helping James pay for. Basically, we want to get as many listeners' names as possible on the back of that car. And that'll also give James an easier time of things. Because that will pay for tyres, fuel, transport, everything that Dave said the other week that costs an absolute fortune to keep the car going.
Yeah.
We're all going to put in.
Yep.
So our names are going to be on there.
As well as our logo.
As well as our logo. But if you go to, as I say, gofundme.com/3legs4wheels, and I'll put a link on the Facebook page, and we'll tweet it out as well.
Yeah,
probably many, many times.
Absolutely. And when James's boot is full of names, then it will get him to take a photo and send it into a high-res photo and send it in to us so you can try and pick out your own name.
Yeah, and Motorsport TV will be showing the race as well. So
Excellent.
So your name on TV?
Your name on TV as part of Team 3 Legs 4 Wheels Racing.
Absolutely.
Too good an offer to turn down.
I think so.
So yeah, it's gofundme.com/3legs4wheels.
So yeah, and thanks very much, James, for getting in touch and putting that to us as well.
Yeah.
Chris,
you've had a tweet.
Yeah, I've got a couple of tweets. I'm just going to go back to a tweet that I had during the race when we do our live blogs as we do during the races. I had a tweet in whilst the race was going on from William Jordan, who is on Twitter at WillJ609, and he said, if Red Bull had this pace and reliability all year, what would the championship look like? And I said, we'd have a three-way fight between Hamilton, Vettel and Ricciardo because Max's reliability has been poor. But then I realised he said reliability as well in his tweet.
It was early. If it was during the race, it was before 8 in the morning.
It was about 6:30 a.m. But it's a good question. If Red Bull had been on this pace and had the reliability all year, how different would the championship look? Because they would have been taking points off of Mercedes and Ferrari right back at the beginning of the season when Mercedes were struggling with getting to grips with tyres and how their car was supposed to work, bearing in mind they put this long wheel-based floor on the car based around the suspension that got banned because Red Bull complained. We don't think the suspension is legal. Was it Ferrari that complained? I can't remember. Someone complained.
I think it was Ferrari complained because Mercedes and Red Bull had the illegal.
Right, well, there you go. It was Mercedes and Red Bull. So how different would the championship look if Red Bull had been on this pace all year?
And reliability. So I think Danny Rick wouldn't look as good as he does.
You think he'd look as good as he does? Oh, I see, because the car is
Because
better.
Max Verstappen, I think, has been faster than him quite a lot this year.
But just had the poor reliability.
But yeah, not finished races.
Yeah,
so
I think
Verstappen has the raw pace, definitely. Whether that's part of his problem, he drives the car too hard, maybe. But I think as well, Verstappen's someone who goes a bit more wheel to wheel than Ricciardo. Ricciardo's very good at overtaking, but Verstappen will go for something that's not always
may
there.
have had more
he
crashes.
May have happened to a few people along the way.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that we could have actually seen a three-way title fight still going on now between Hamilton, Vettel and Verstappen.
And hopefully we get to see that next year.
I don't think
we
Ricciardo
said the same thing
would
last
necessarily
year.
be out of the question.
Oh, no, it wouldn't be out of the question, but what we've seen is 9 podiums, is it?
Yeah, and I think what you've got there is the strongest pairings. If you look at Ferrari, Raikkonen's not quite been on it with Vettel all the time. There've been a few races where he has. Mm-hmm. Bottas certainly hasn't been with Hamilton, especially in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And you could probably say that Ricciardo...
But I don't think that's because of Bottas slowing down. I think that's, like Sean said before, it's like Lewis has just found
He's on a hot streak.
Something else.
Yeah. And then you've got Verstappen and Ricciardo, who are actually quite closely matched.
Yeah.
And both bring those cars home, like this weekend has gone, in second and third places, which is exactly what, as Red Bull should be doing when they're not the best. They're right there as second best when everybody else loses a spark plug or gets grid penalties.
I mean, Red Bull have said before Suzuka they might be in with a chance of taking second away from Ferrari in the constructors.
Mm-hmm. If Ferrari's luck continues and Red Bull's upturn in form continues, absolutely. But
It's a goal we would have laughed at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, because I said earlier, didn't I? They were 30 seconds off the pace
Yeah.
in Australia, 40 in China, 50 in Bahrain. And then all of a sudden, they had some sort of upgrade.
You know what? You know why that
Pulled
happened?
it in together.
Because we predicted they'd be right up there with Mercedes before the season started. Because we predicted it, it didn't happen.
That's probably the exact reason why.
Had a tweet from Robert Higgins. It was quite a good one. It made me think. Renault clearly have an agenda getting rid of Jopo, but is that agenda either A, simply a desire to achieve at all costs, or B, financially desperate for the extra cash a better championship position brings?
My first thought when it got announced was it was championship position, because they were going into this weekend. I think they were 10 points behind Toro Rosso.
Are they 3 points ahead of Haas or something like that?
They were only a couple of points ahead of Haas. Williams were only something like 25 points up the road. That midfield, those 4 teams, there's nothing between them.
No, and then you've got McLaren, who are not, if they have a really good Austin, as we said before, it could be that, McLaren do take a big chunk of points and jump from, like, 9th, where they are now, up to 6th or 7th. That's not...
Particularly if another team has a double DNF.
Exactly, but in one race, one good race is enough to jump a team up from, as you say, 8th or 9th all the way up to 5th, if you get a good double finish.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, there's 10 points between Renault in 8th and Toro Rosso in 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know that Carlos Sainz is someone, if he finishes, he tends to be in the points. So that's obviously what they
the
want
vast majority
him for.
of the 52 points that Toro Rosso have got have been from Sainz.
Yeah.
48 of them.
48 of them.
So, not only are they potentially getting more points for Renault, but they're taking away a point scorer from Toro Rosso. But, I don't know, I've got a feeling that a lot of it might be more towards the 2018 season and trying to develop the best car for both drivers rather than making a car that works well for Hülkenberg and a car where Sainz finds it an unknown quantity, because the first time he gets involved is
February.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw
4 race weekends of pre-season testing for next year. Effectively.
Well, Renault they've said, haven't they? They're targeting the title in 2020.
They're targeting race wins next year.
Race wins in 2019 and podiums. Podiums for next year. Now, if Hulkenberg will score a podium next year, awesome.
I think he'll be a happy man.
Yeah, but Sainz hasn't had one yet either. So you've very astute recruitment by Renault to have 2 drivers who've never scored podiums, who are hungry for podiums, and have been on the cusp of scoring podiums, who will want to push that little bit extra to make sure they can do it. And to get Sainz in a few races early, it's got to be for the prize money for this year. That has to come into play.
Yeah. I don't know how much of a factor that's going to be, because according to rumours, they have had to pay Jolyon Palmer quite a lot of money to get him to leave his contract.
To go away.
Yeah.
Here's some money, go away.
So, depending on how many places and how much prize money they're expecting to get from those extra places, it might end up being not a profitable transaction.
Yeah.
So they've got to have at least one eye on the future.
Yeah, well, Williams are dropping points as well.
I was going to make a Pierre Gasly joke and one eye on his future.
No. Williams are dropping points at an alarming rate. They're starting to slide backwards as the season goes on, especially in qualifying trim. They don't appear to have qualifying pace whatsoever.
Which is strange, because they have the Mercedes engine, which supposedly has this magic qualifying formula that everyone so wants at the moment.
Which Force India has got and Mercedes have got, but Williams appear to
they don't seem to get
lack.
Yeah, maybe they don't get deep enough into qualifying to use it. But
what Williams have got is bugger all in the way of downforce.
Yeah.
So tracks like Baku, where it's go as fast as you can in a straight line, then stop and turn 90 degrees, they are really, really good at. the last few tracks we've had,
Aren't like that.
McLarens have looked pretty good.
With a good chassis.
With a good chassis, and possibly quite high downforce and a low power engine.
Yeah.
Whereas Williams with a high power engine and maybe a less good chassis don't look so good.
No. But if they're hemorrhaging points for the rest of the season, there is a good chance that Sainz, wanting to impress early on, and Hülkenberg as well, will score high points and maybe take 5th place, which would be a huge
That would be a
achievement
blow for
Renault.
Williams.
It would be a massive blow for Williams. That is not out of the question that Renault could take 5th place. 4th is perhaps a little bit too far out of the equation.
4th is way too far out of the equation. Force India are on 147.
Yeah.
I think they've pretty much got that, really, haven't they?
Yeah, but they'll only let the drivers race when it's mathematically certain. I mean, if you look at it, there's a 24-point gap. There's 4 races to go. If Renault can
6 points per
take
race.
6 points out of Williams per race,
It's very doable.
Yeah.
you know that could easily happen. Or 6 points out of 3 races and 7 points in another because Williams will get 4th because they've had more podiums, unless Hulk does it or Sainz.
Yeah.
Don't possibly rule out Renault on the podium. We could actually see.
Maybe in Brazil.
Mm.
Rain.
It would be embarrassing for Hülkenberg if Sainz was to turn up in the team and
Score a podium.
score a podium in a car that he doesn't know, or doesn't know as well as Hülkenberg does. Would that be calling Hülkenberg out a little bit?
I think it could well be, yes.
Yeah, it would be a bit. We know he's good.
But maybe if Sainz was to get the podium before he does, then maybe he's not as good as he says he is.
But it might actually be quite good for Hulk, because he looks good most weekends because he's got Palmer across the garage. He's now going to have to work a little bit harder if he still wants to be the best driver in a Renault.
He's been number one just by phoning it in because he doesn't have to try.
Yeah,
because Palmer will either bin it because he's made a mistake earlier and trying too hard, or, oh look, I fed it after midnight, bollocks. Had to get a movie reference in there somewhere. Right, just want to thank everyone for all the tweets. A big shout out to Charlie Jefferson for that Ferrari headless chicken logo.
Yeah, headless chicken instead of the prancing horse. I think that has the potential to go viral.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice it got quite a lot of retweets yesterday, so thank you very much for that, Charlie. Apparently he did it on his iPod because he's just got to uni and he's not unpacked his PC yet. Sorry, his
Fair
iPad.
I was going to say, if you're doing it on your iPod like this. So yeah, fair enough. If that's what you can do on your iPad, you know, I know who to come to when I need a logo.
Oh, I've already asked him. Yeah, he says he's more than happy to do his new logo if we need one. So yeah, we've said it now. That's a thing. It's the law. It's got to happen. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us on 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. You can tweet us at 3legs4wheels or
At Sean Cowper.
At Danbert.
At Flood21.
and at Pablo100. And for some reason, if you want to get in touch with Lee, he's at a total shunt. We're there on Facebook. Just go to Facebook and look for 3 Legs 4 Wheels. We will turn up. And obviously, there's the James Holman GoFundMe for the sponsorship. That's gofundme.com/3legs4wheels. And there's our Patreon show as well for all the extra non-F1 content. And that is patreon.com/3legs4wheels. I think that's about everything, isn't it?
I think so. Well, thanks again to Sean for coming on again tonight.
Yep, massive thank you to Sean. Always great to have him on, and I'm sure he will be on again before much longer.
Yes, sure he will be.
Yeah. We'll be back next week, and we'll be previewing Austin. Does one of us get to shout out, let's get ready to rumble?
Let's
No.
get ready.
No,
we haven't paid for it.
No, that's true. He does that.
It's about $1 million a go, isn't it?
Yeah, he's still earning quite a lot of money off PJ and Duncan.
Yeah, let's not do that then.
Yeah. So, in true Kimmy style, let's get ready to mumble.
Ah, fair enough.
That was Sean's joke, actually.
No, I think Grosjean was mine. Let's get ready to grumble.
No, I did the Grosjean one.
You
You did the
Grosjean.
Kimmy one.
This went on for a long time.
Ferrari, let's get ready to crumble.
Yep. If you've got any Michael Buffer suggestions for the announcements in Austin, let us know.
That we won't get sued for. Because he owns the rights to it.
Yeah. So let's prepare to do something. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.